All right, everybody. I'm going to miss the second half of period 6-8, and so in order to keep period 6-8 and period 4-5 on the same page, metaphorically and literally, I'm going to have period 6-8 watching this video, the back half of after lunch, and so we're going to do the same thing in period 4-5 just to keep everyone, like I said, on the same schedule here. So we are going to take some time this week to take a look at the exams that you guys will take in May. We're going to start a new ethnography called Remotely Global, but it didn't make sense in my mind to start that the week before Thanksgiving, where we're going to go leave for a week and then come back. So we're just going to wait to start our second ethnography until after Thanksgiving. And so my students last year recommended that I introduce the examinations earlier in the year so that they feel like they kind of know where all of this is headed and they can be prepared for it. So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to take a look at some sample exams. We won't be able to do them fully like we will in the spring for reasons that you'll see here in a second. But again, it'll just give you an idea of where this is headed so that as we move to the end of first semester and into second semester, you can kind of see where all of this, how all of this knowledge that you're acquiring will be applied. So notice that this is anthropology standard level. That's what all of you are doing. Notice that this is paper 1. So as a reminder, you'll do paper 1 on like the afternoon of day 1, and then you'll do paper 2 on the morning of the next day. So rather than one long 3-hour session of exams like you do with AP, IB splits it up into 2 smaller chunks over the course of 2 days. So notice you'll have an hour and 30 minutes for paper 1. It's actually an hour and 35 minutes because you have 5 minutes of what's called reading time before the exam starts. All right, notice the instructions are very simple. Don't open up the examination paper until instructed to do so. You're going to read the passage and you're going to answer questions 1 and 2. You're going to choose between 3 or 4, and then you'll answer question 5. And the maximum score for this is 30 points or 30 marks, and I'll show you how that is broken down in just a few minutes. All right, as we look inside the examination paper, we'll see that there is, in fact, what is called an unseen passage. And this is about a page and a half from some kind of ethnography or ethnographic journal article. Notice that this one is from an anthropologist last name Willis. This is from 2022, relatively recent. It's entitled Eating Pizza in Prison, Failing Family Men, Civil Punishment, and the Policing of Whiteness in Sao Paulo. That's in Brazil, if you didn't know. And then it's from the journal American Ethnologist. And then you can see that the total number of pages that this was in its original context is about 12 pages. And then notice here, you're just getting about, I don't know, a dozen paragraphs or so. It's about a page and a half. Okay, well, before you start reading the passage, I always think it's a good idea to look at the questions. So for this exam, you're going to be answering question 1 and question 2. So let's take a minute and look at those questions. Question 1, define the term status and how it can be how it can be understood and applied in the context of the passage. So status. And then use the ethnographic data presented in the passage using the concept of power. All right. So now I know as I'm reading this passage to answer questions 1 and 2, I'm going to be looking for things linked to status and or power. Then I'm going to choose between question 3 or question 4. Now let's go to question 4 first. This is the one I'm going to actually recommend that you probably don't answer. Now again, it's up to you, but let's take a look at question 4. Notice it asks to compare and contrast the approaches to research, the methods that the anthropologist in this passage is using compared to the approaches to research by one other anthropologist you've studied. Make reference to concepts and ethnographic material in your answer. Well, right now you've only studied one other anthropologist, and that's Dr. Seth Holmes. And here's why I'm going to encourage you not to answer question 4. You only have, like I said, about a page and a half here, about, I don't know, 10 to 12 paragraphs of information about how Willis actually did their research. And you'll see as you read it, there's actually not that much in here about their actual methods. Whereas with Dr. Holmes, you've read the entire book and you've spent time in class. We've even done a methods project. So like you could talk for probably 10 or 15 minutes about Dr. Holmes and participant observation and living in the work camps and working in the fields and going to Oaxaca and coming across the border and the ethics of various things. Like you could talk at great length about Dr. Holmes, but you're really going to struggle to talk about this anthropologist at much length at all because you just don't have that much information. So I'm going to generally recommend that you just don't answer question question 4. Now, again, we don't know what the text will be for your exam. Maybe it's going to be all about methods. Maybe you'll feel super comfortable, but you can see why I kind of caution or recommend that you don't do question 4. So that leaves question 3. Notice with this one, again, you got options. You're going to compare and contrast the ways in which the key concept of society or identity is evident in this passage and how it's evident in one other ethnographic example you've studied. Well, right now you've only studied one example, fresh fruit, broken bodies. So you would be comparing and contrasting either society or identity between this text and fresh fruit, broken bodies. Okay, so now we know as we read the text, we're looking for stuff about status, we're looking for stuff about power, we're looking for stuff about society, we're looking for stuff about identity. All right, we're not doing question 4 unless you really, really want to. So that takes us to question 5, which is what does it mean to be a person? Discussed with reference to at least 2 sources of ethnographic material and examples from the passage. Well, again, we don't have 2 sources yet. We will. We'll have 3 by the time it's time for the exams in May. But right now we only have 1, fresh fruit, broken bodies. So we're just going to pretend that the question asks, discussed with reference to 1 source of ethnographic material and examples from the passage. So we're going to think about personhood. What does it mean to be a person? All right, so now we know we're looking for stuff about personhood, we're looking for stuff about society or identity, we're looking for stuff about power, we're looking for stuff about status. All right, so what I'd like you to do now is just pause this video for as long as you'd like and just read the passage, and while you do, annotate it as you're looking for things about status, power, society, identity, and personhood. Oh, one last thing before you pause. Let's take a look at the official IB definition of status. We'll review all these definitions. We'll learn and review them in the spring. But again, status is going to not be a surprising definition for you, right? The official definition is the position a person has within a social system. That makes sense. Like, what is your status in the social system? The only trick to this is that there's a little more to the definition, which is that obviously sometimes the status can be given to you. It's out of your control. So you might think about, like, again, migration status or immigration status or race, the way status is afforded to race or gender. That's not really within your control, right? Versus status that is achieved, right, that you can gain or earn. So becoming a doctor, becoming a teacher, becoming a lawyer, becoming a husband, becoming a wife, becoming a father. Like, these are all statuses that are acquired, based on choice, right, rather than just being given to you by society. So that's it. So there's our official definition of status, right, your position in a social system and whether it's given to you or whether you choose it. All right, so now pause the video and take some time and read and annotate the text. And once you're done, unpause and we'll talk about what to do next. Okay, now that you've paused the video and had a chance to read and annotate the text, I don't think there was anything necessarily in the text that jumped out to me as being difficult to understand. You might have some questions about what bureaucracy is, maybe the word provisional, punitive maybe. Again, there might be some words in here that might be a little odd to you, but hopefully most of this text was pretty easy for you to understand. So what I'd like you to do today is on the lined paper that you've been given, just see if you can answer question 1. Just question 1. That's all we want to do today is just see if you can define the term status and use it to understand and apply it to the text, this unseen text. You're not doing any fresh fruit, broken bodies yet. You're just doing this passage. All right, so that's it. That's your goal for today, is just to see if you can answer question 1. What is a good answer length for these questions? Well, notice the points are over here on the right, and that notice as you go down, the questions are worth more and therefore need longer answers. So I'm gonna advise you that your answer to question 1 is really just like a good paragraph, just like 4, 5, 6 sentences, giving specific evidence from the text. That would be a really good answer. All right, so go ahead and have at it, and we'll talk about these tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.